In this video, we will start talking about Chapter 4, Supply and Demand. You probably already noticed that we have not yet talked about Chapters 2 and 3. We just moved Chapter 4 up right after our discussion of the very first chapter. Okay? This is because Chapter 4 is the most important chapter throughout the semester. If you remember, on day 1, we already said that if you have a solid understanding of the supply and demand analysis, you can easily understand more than 50% of the materials throughout the book. Okay? So please spend more time getting more practice and don't let yourself falling behind. Okay? And this chapter should be quite straightforward, but we're going to use a lot of the graphical analysis. Okay? For some of you, if graphs are not really your thing, it may take a little bit more time for you to understand. Okay? All right. Before we start talking about the specific concepts, let's take a look at this numerical example in the worksheet number 1. Okay, so I'm looking at the back of the worksheet, question number 3. Here, we give you a real-world example about the basketball tickets. Okay, and you can find 5 different levels of the ticket price. All right, as low as $4 per ticket, as high as $20 per ticket. You can also find the corresponding number of tickets demanded by basketball fans at each possible price. Now, the question says, please draw the demand curve. Okay, so let's do that. Again, as we said, we got 5 different combinations between the price and the quantity. Okay, the first one is when the price is $4 per ticket, the quantity demanded, in other words, how many tickets the market demands, is 10,000. So let's plot this one here. Let's find this combination point here on the graph. Okay, oops, sorry. So when the price is $4 and the quantity is 10,000. Now, when the price increases from 4 to 8, we find that the quantity becomes 8,000 tickets. Okay, it's going to be right here. All right, when the price is 12, the quantity is 6,000. It's right here. All right, and when the price increases to $16 per ticket, we still find 4,000 tickets demanded by the market. All right, when the price goes up to $20 per ticket, now we only have 2,000 tickets demanded on the market. Okay, now once we find these 4 dots or combinations on the graph, we can connect them to get our demand curve. All right, let's label it as D. D is for demand. Okay. All right, here, obviously, we find a downward sloping demand curve. Okay, it's a downward sloping curve. This is the most important graphical feature of a demand curve. Okay. Now, the question says, what happens on the diagram if the price falls from $16 to $8? Okay. Now, when the price is $16, we stay here. When the price goes down, we're gonna move this way along the curve, right? All the way to $8 per ticket. So we find that the quantity demanded for basketball tickets would go up from 4,000 to 8,000. Okay. On the graph, we find that there's a movement along the curve when the price decreases. All right. Now, let's switch back to the slides and take a look at these basic concepts here. Okay. Now, the first one is quantity demanded, which is the actual amount of a good or service consumers are willing and able to buy at some specific price. Now, in the previous example, this good is, or the service is the basketball game, right? Or ticket. And here, remember, to be counted as a quantity demanded, there are two preconditions. The first one, you must be willing to buy. In other words, you have the interest. Okay. The second precondition is you should be able to buy. Specifically, in that example, you have enough money in your pocket so you can afford it. Okay. For example, when the ticket price is $4, we find 10,000 tickets demanded on the market, right? In other words, 10,000 people are willing and able to buy when the price is $4. Okay. If you would say, I'm a big basketball fan, I really want to go, but I just don't have enough money. Or you said that, I got more than $4 in my pocket, but I'm not interested in basketball. So, in either case, you won't be counted as quantity demanded, right? Demand schedule tells us how much of a good or service consumers are willing and able to buy at various prices. In other words, it's not going to show us just one combination between price and quantity. It will show us all combinations between the prices and the corresponding quantities. Okay. Remember, in the previous example, we show you the table and we draw the curve on the basis of the information in the table. So that table is called demand schedule. Demand curve is just a graphical representation of the demand schedule. Okay, so it's that downward sloping curve we already drew. The last one here on this slide, demand is a relationship between quantity demanded and prices. Okay, now here the most challenging point is the difference between quantity demanded and demand. Okay, students often get confused between these two. Now, here is a pretty easy way I would suggest to understand this. Quantity demanded is a number. You give me a price, I give you a quantity demanded. For example, as we said, when the price of basketball game ticket is $20, the quantity demanded would be 2,000. Okay, you name a price, I give you the corresponding quantity. However, demand is a relationship. The relationship would be determined or defined by various prices and their corresponding quantities. So it's not a number. I cannot simply tell you a number showing a demand. I have to give you the whole demand schedule or a demand curve to demonstrate the relationship between the quantity demanded and price. All right. Now, in the next video, we're going to start talking about what factors would determine how much people are willing and able to buy, okay? Or how much they would buy on the market. Okay, what are the factors that would affect the people's purchasing decision?